Howdy, I'm Bob Trask. Today, let's talk about thoughts. And let's talk about thoughts as real things. Every thought I'm thinking, every thought you're thinking is real. It's real. It goes out from me or out from you, and it touches the reality around us and somehow alters it. It changes it. You are in the process of creating your own reality every day by your thoughts. And your thoughts may come from your conscious mind, or they may well up out of your subconscious mind and implant themselves in your consciousness so that you follow the same routines and have the same thought patterns that you've had for a long time, because that's what your subconscious mind, ruled by your ego, tells you to think. And we think along the same lines and we get the same results, don't we? We continually get the same results because we think the same things. We go around in that little circle thinking the same thoughts, producing the same results. On the triangle, be, do, have. On that triangle, be, do, have. When the beingness is the thoughts that we carry with us every day. Thoughts about ourselves, thoughts about our family, thoughts about the people that we work with or work for, thoughts about school, thoughts about everything around us and everyone around us. Those thoughts go out from us and create the reality, because from those thoughts that are in be, we then do. What we do is create the reality that matches up with those thoughts. So the B part of the triangle is by far the most important, because in the B part of the triangle, we become the creator. The action over here at do, the action that happens there comes from, wells up out of being. And what we have comes from what we do. And then we come back to be. And as we do that, of course, the triangle continues to grow, and we continue to grow, and we become more abundant, more joyful, more creative, more powerful, a greater effect for goodness in the world in which we live. Thoughts are real things. My wife and I were driving to the movie a few years ago, and I said to Mary, I want to tell you about a dear friend of mine. She's been on my mind lately. Kathy Shea was just a dear, dear close friend when I lived in San Francisco, and I worked as a singer and model and actor, and she worked at a television station. And we became really close. And then she got married, and I didn't see her again, and that's been more than 40 years. Well, we went to the movie and saw the movie The Insider. And at the end, when the credits began to roll, the first name, or almost the first name that came up on the screen, was Kathy Shea. And I said, isn't that weird? We were just talking about Kathy Shea. Of course, this wouldn't be the same Kathy Shea, but imagine the coincidence of that. Quite a coincidence. In other words, coincidence, break the word down. In other words, two unlikely things coincide. So yeah, I would agree that it's a coincidence, but what we have to ask ourselves is why and how did those two unlikely things coincide? Because they were vibrating at the same frequency, they aligned and pulled themselves together. So we came home, and I went to check my emails, and you guessed it, I had an email from Kathy Shea. Now, I hadn't seen Kathy Shea or talked to Kathy Shea since before there were personal computers, since before there was an internet, before there was email, before there was any of that. And no one back then could have dreamed that we would live in this high-tech cyber world in which we all are now immersed. No one could have dreamed that, but somebody did. Somebody thought it. and it came into being. But it would, if you talked about it back then, people would have said that's not possible. And it wasn't possible. It was probable. It was probable because someone was already thinking those thoughts. So I was so delighted to hear from Kathy, and I talked to her and I told her, you know, the most amazing thing is that we just went and saw a movie, The Insider, and the first name that came down was Kathy Shea, and she said, yeah, that's right, I was associate producer on that with Michael Mann. Now, you can't possibly imagine that that could have happened. All those different circumstances could have happened unless thoughts are real things. And when you hear the phone ring and you say you're thinking about your mom and you pick it up and it's your mom, or it's a friend, or maybe somebody you haven't talked to in a year, but you were thinking about them and they called and there you are. And you said, I was just thinking about you. But you don't put together the fact that the phone call was because you were just thinking about them. Thoughts are real things. They're vibrations. They will attract to you those things that you want or those things that you hate, depending on what you're thinking of. If you're driving down the highway through the Arizona desert at night, your headlights are going straight ahead and you're driving in the direction of those headlights. If you think about your headlights as attention, if you turn your attention off of the road, if you put your thoughts over there, pretty soon you're going to have a pretty bumpy path. And if the path you're on today is pretty bumpy, then bring those headlights of your attention back and focus them on what you want. Not on what you don't want, on what you want. And send your thoughts and your affirmations in that direction and watch the miracles happen. Thank you. I'm Bob Trask.